Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. Today is Friday, May the 10th. What a wonderful day to be here, looking at all these people coming in. We got a nice crowd today. To start off, I'd like to bring up Chip Schweiger, founder and managing member of Schweiger CPA firm PLLC, for our invocation, followed immediately after by our anthem by past President Doug Briley. Please rise with me.
Good, how are you? Great. Happy Friday, all you beautiful people. It's good to be here with you. Let's go to church in prayer for just a moment, shall we? Heavenly Father, we gather today with grateful hearts to thank you for the food before us and the fellowship of good friends. We appreciate the effort and resources that have provided us with this nourishment. May this meal sustain our bodies and remind us of the many blessings in our lives. We're also thankful for the love of friends who surround us today and the abundance of the relationships we enjoy. We pray for your continued blessings of safety over those who protect us abroad and for those who keep us safe at home. Bless this food, those who prepared it, and our time together today. May the food strengthen us physically and the fellowship strengthen us spiritually. In your holy name, we give thanks and pray, and all God's people say, Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, got a visitor welcome, Ed McLinn. Come on up here. There you are. And tell us about our visitors.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to all of our guests today, in person and on Zoom. As I announce your name, please stand so everybody can wave at you and know who you are. First, we have Michael Barber, who's a guest of Crystal Galvan. We have Daniel Cerno, I messed up your name already, a guest of Zoran Gutic over here. We have Rhett Caraway, a guest of Greg Carter. Come on. David Moreno, a guest of Chris Cobbler. We have Dominique Anderson, a guest of Richard Knight. Melanie Dottie Munoz, a guest of Rosa Bardeja. And lastly, we have Josh Strange, a guest of Pam Cannell. All right, thank y'all. Back to you, President Kirk.
Thank you very much, Ed. All right. Well, let's see here. Looks like we have the newscast up, but I don't see the four-way test again. So, do you have it handy? All right, there it is. So, for all of our guests today, first of all, thank you for coming. And so as Rotary members, we have this filter that we use called the four-way test. Anything we think, say, or do, we try to filter through this. If it doesn't meet that test, well, we try not to think, say, or do those things. So if you would, please repeat along with me, everyone. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? So I will tell you personally, I've had several doses of that this week on behalf of the club, which, again, thank you to our membership for sending me so many years ago. I think it's 6 years ago now. Y'all sent me to Thailand for the Rotary Peace Fellowship. And I've somehow ended up back on the speaking circuit. This week, I've spoken to 2 Rotary clubs, the first being the Little Elm Club, and the second one was, ma'am? Big Elm? No, Little Elm, Big Hearts. Big Hearts, Little Elm is what they tell themselves. Anyway, and the second one was just yesterday at the Flower Mound Rotary Club. I will tell you, they're not nearly as large as us. So both clubs average membership about 20, which is pretty common. So again, in each of those meetings, we do the 4-way test. Thank you to this club for sending me out for being able to do that. Now, on to the newscast. Scott Hackler, founder and CEO, Halo de Santo LLC. Where are you at, Scott? Are you coming? Come on. When I say your name, that means come to the stage. Come on.
There we go. That's what I wanted. Earlier this week, as violent storms were coursing around the Midwest, 2 rare versions were detected near Loveland, Oklahoma. Meteorologist Stephen Morgan acknowledged that, quote, some strange things popped up that night. Turns out more than 98% of tornadoes spin in a counterclockwise direction. But that night, 2 tornadoes, technically called anticyclones, were found to be spinning clockwise. Finally, the metaphor we've all been waiting for this year's presidential election. 2 oddball tornadoes no one can believe we're having to deal with at the same time. Keep going. Keep going. A convict in a prison in Karnataka, India, acted quickly to hide his smuggled-in cell phone when guards raided his cell earlier this week. Or this was last month, you'll see, last month. Instead of stashing the contraband in a pillowcase or toilet, he swallowed the phone. When he began to complain of stomach pain, he was transferred to Victoria Hospital in Bengaluru. An ultrasound revealed that his phone was stuck at the entrance of the small intestine. The device had been inside the man for 20 days when it was removed. The prisoner recovered from the surgery and was returned to his cell. Once back at the prison, he asked to use the phone for just a few minutes more. His gut had been telling him for weeks that he had messages. Yeah, that was the, exactly. Yeah, that's the right reaction to that joke, actually. Last week, an emergency slide fell off a Delta Boeing 767 upon takeoff from JFK Airport. This week, the slide washed up right in front of the beachside home in Bell Harbor, Queens, of Jake Bassel-Linsk, the attorney who filed a federal lawsuit against Boeing after the Alaska Airlines door blowout in January. This is no joke. Bell Harbor is about 6 miles southeast of JFK. He said a Delta Airlines crew arrived a few hours later, threw the slide in the back of a pickup truck, and drove away. Quote, "We haven't decided if the slide is relevant to our case," he noted. If sometimes a story does need a punchline, that's the story. There you go. It's just, they write themselves. On Tuesday, adult film actress Stormy Daniels testified in the ongoing criminal hush money trial of the 45th President of the United States of America. I am reminded of a tweet posted by a comedian 6 years ago. I don't remember the comedian's name, but I remember the tweet very clearly. And it read, "I cannot believe we have a president who sleeps with porn stars and wants a space army, and I still hate him." There you go. Saturday was the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. The second most exciting 2 minutes in sports is explaining to your spouse why you spent $58,440 on 2 season tickets for the Texas Rangers. Babe, they are defending world season champs. I don't know what else to have to say about it. I mean, come on, you know. Finishing first in this field of 20 horses at Churchill Downs was Mystic Dan. Coming in at number 20 in last place, as expected, was Pessimistic Stan. He never really had a chance. Yeah. All right, let's see here if I can get, I usually don't speak to slides because, we'll see here. I've got two slides, here we go, all right. All this racing excitement has got me thinking about the field that this club might pull together for the Kentucky Derby. After spending far too long on this, far too long, I can assure you, I invite you to imagine seeing horses with these names trot up to the starting gate next year in Louisville. Let's see here. Oh, this is very small. I'll read them out too. Waikiki Wardrobe. Good Cop. I'm hoping you can guess who these people are. We'll go. Beer Money. I'll keep going. Lawless. There you go, Tom. Answer McQuestion. Are these horses you would bet on? Let's just keep going here. We got 20 of them. There's more to go, guys. Snell Mill. Cannelloni. Monte Carlo. Zim Apples. Transformer. Yes, just trying around. Three Sheets. Randall with Care. That's a favorite. Randall with Care. Cost of Living. Savings and Sloan. I saw Mr. Sloan around here somewhere. Phi Zeta Kappa. Fairly Certain. Fetty Boop. Oil Derrick. Cross the Jordan. And Joe Michaels, PhD, PE-CPL. That's the news. Thank y'all.
Wow. That was great. Thank you, Scott. All right. YWLA/Interact update. Matt Sylvia, where you at? Come on up here. EVP, Senior Lender, First Financial Bank, with our YWLA update.
All right, well, thank you very much. Like all things coming to an end with our Rotary year, we are now completing, our Interact Club has completed their year for their most recent 23-24 Interact year, year 2. Kyla Evans was the esteemed president of the club this year and has done a wonderful job, and I'm very proud of all of you and what you have accomplished this year, all much on your own doing, and it's been a pleasure to meet with you guys weekly and see the growth this year in the second year of this. I'll let you talk, Kyla. You have some slides here, and we'll finish up when you're done.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, I'm Mr. Sylvia just introduced me as. My name is Kyla Evans. I'm the president of Young Women's Leadership Interact Club. This year, we were able to do a lot with your support as well as other people in the community. And we must, to begin with, we must thank you guys.
All right, hello, my name is Lali Triana. I am the vice president of this year, and I'll be next year's president. This year has been really such an amazing experience. We've done many projects. Through these events, we were able to engage with our peers, and then in our community, we were able to give back to those in need and everything else. Okay, so during was it September and October, our school had our annual Fiesta Latina, which is usually happens to celebrate the Hispanic Latino Heritage Month. And for this event, we decided to have a little booth where we would play Loteria, and all the donations that we would get, we were donated to Polio Plus. Yes. And then And then in November and December, we plan to do holiday, like Christmas cards for the women's shelter and then the retirement home. And then here are some of the examples that we did. And we were able to give them before Christmas, and it was pretty fun.
Thank you. Thank you to Salali for that. This year, one of the things we wanted to focus on was helping, since we're an all-girls school, we wanted to focus on helping women in our under communities. So what we decided to do is donate to, we did a drive for a bunch of stuff for the women at Center for Transforming Lives, which is for a organization for women and their children. And one of the things that they discussed is that when people are moving into new homes, they don't have a lot of supplies that they need. So what we did is we ran drives. You know, we got sheets, laundry detergent, we're soaked, and some of you guys even donated to the cost too, which we really thank you for. It was just really good to see like how willing people are to give back, and it just really encouraged us to keep going and keep working harder, so next year we can help give back even more. One of the second things and the final things we decided to do is that we wanted to get outside of school and like actually go out into community. So what we decided to do is the Cowtown cleanup, and what that is basically you go and you clean them along the Trinity River. It was actually really fun, and we got to get outside. We collected a bunch of trash. We walked a lot. I reached my step goal that day, and it was just a lot of fun, as our treasurer Lorelei can tell you. Okay. This is where you can contact us. We have an Interact email, an Instagram, and also a Facebook. Thank you.
Kyle, I have one thing for you before you leave. As outgoing president, and big thanks to Judge Randy Fluke. I don't know if he's here today, I don't think so, but he put together these nice plaques for all the officers of the club, and we have a senior here as well. So
She had a
that's right. She's not here, but we're going to get her something special as a senior. So we have a plaque with your gavel honoring your year as president of your Interact Club. I want to thank you on behalf of the Fort Worth Rotary Club, and continued success, and we appreciate everything that you guys have done this year. It's truly incredible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our leaders of the future, right here, okay? About 10, 15 years, hopefully we'll be recruiting them up to here. So there you have it. All right, next up, and we got a couple quick announcements we got to get through. Akua Yanfo, CEO, founder, EA Wealth Management, LLC, and Rosa Maria Verdeja, principal attorney, law office of Rosa Maria Verdeja, come on up here and give us an announcement on the International Committee. And
thank you, President Carrick. Okay, so I know every time I show up here, I'm becoming synonymous with asking for money, but the good news is today I'm not asking you for any money. However, there's a twist at the end of this announcement, so pay attention. So the International Committee is going to invite you to an international wine tasting and multicultural food event on May 31st. Hoo-hoo, right? Come have some wine with us, come have some international cuisine, come and enjoy some fun, but we want you to bring in some donations. So this time around, we're actually asking for donations for World Relief. If you remember the last time we had a food and hygiene kit event, it was specifically for Catholic charities. This time around, we actually are looking for donations on the tangible list items for World Relief. Please take a look in your rotograph and take a look at the list. These are some of the list of things that you already have. Emphasis on unused items. And please bring them to the club meetings on the Fridays leading up to the event, or bring it to the event. But we would love to have you, so come and have international food and wine with us on May 31st. Thank you very much.
thank you, Akua. Rosa.
Happy Friday, y'all. I am the new promotions chair for the Minority Business Awards Committee, and I am thrilled to be inviting everyone to our sponsor appreciation and celebration event that we will be having on May 30th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the offices of WRG. So thank you, Mr. Carter, for donating your space. We will be celebrating another successful year of the Minority Business Awards, as well as celebrating our award winners and our sponsors. So everyone's invited. Please save the date. There will be an email going out from Aurora with a link to go ahead and register just for planning purposes, so we can make sure to have enough food and wine for everyone. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, James Emmons. Who's ready for some golf? James, you up here? Where you at, James? We not making the announcements? James here? There he is. Come on. Gotta go.
Thank you, President Kirk. I just wanted to give everybody a reminder of the 2024 Crazy Pants Open Golf Tournament is on May 14, this coming Tuesday. We still have slots open for anyone that would like to play, including singles and foursomes. We have several singles still in the group, so we can make up foursomes if you like. Please see me, Courtney Lewis, Mr. David Campbell, Matt Sylvia, Jason Ellis, Mike Campbell, and of course, Aurora, or Blair Hancock. So we can help you get signed up, or you can send us emails, or whatever it takes, just get in touch with us. We're ready to play. But anyway, it's going to be a great event. We've got some, I need some wood to hit upon, but we have some good weather planned, and it'll be a fun event. So thank you very much. Thanks, President Kirk. He's on a team this year too, so y'all might want to come and participate.
All right. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Next up, Maddie Compton. Where are you at? Secretary Maddie P. Compton, retired federal prosecutor, with a couple of first readings. Madam?
Good afternoon. The first of the two first readings is Mark Kelly. He's a transfer from the Grapevine Rotary. His title is Director, Community and Celebrant Services. His company, Harper and Lucas Funeral Homes. His classification is Funeral and Cremation Services, and his proposer is past President Gary Cumby. The second first reading is Ryan T. McLean. His title is Owner. His company is Impact Wealth Group. Classification, Financial Planning and Management, and his proposer is Pam Cannell. If no written objections are received in the Rotary office by May the 17th, these proposals will be given a second reading and voted on by the club.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. All right. It's exciting. Love seeing new members being put forward on the slate. Speaking of new members, Chris Harris, come on up here. Got a new member introduction to make. His proposer is Corey Harris, his beautiful wife. Chris is a friend of mine, and he asked me, since Corey can't be here today, she has another engagement, he asked me to introduce him. So I'm gonna do my best here. Chris is Chief Revenue Officer at Tech Labs, a 40-year Texas company that focuses on bridging the U.S. manufacturing skills gap through training, development, and technology. As the author of Phase Selling for Additive Manufacturing, it's an exciting sounding book, Harris has provided his proprietary sales performance training and consulting services to several hundred companies from over 60 countries. He serves on the All3DP Pro Editorial Advisory Board, an online technology magazine with over 3 million monthly readers. As founder of Chris Harris LLC, Harris is an international keynote speaker, consultant, and media guest specializing in mindset. He has authored 7 books, including The Complete Idiot Guides to Self-Defense, licensed by one of the largest publishers in the world. In his book, I Go Through, Harris uses real-life examples from his tumultuous childhood to inspire others to overcome adversity. I've read that. It's a great read. He has conducted over 100 media interviews on various topics, seen on Forbes, Fox, ABC, NBC, and CBS. As founder of Roku Jiu-Jitsu, an elite close-quarter combat system, Harris has worked with hundreds of clients, including private security firms, federal agencies, military, and special forces for the U.S. and its global allies. He has been inducted into the Martial Arts Hall of Fame, holds the rank of Grandmaster, and serves on the U.S. Jiu-Jitsu Technical Committee. He is an award-winning inventor who's patented several products related to non-lethal personal safety, including the world's first passive restraint police baton. He provides consulting services to the U.S. defense sector, is an active member of the Business Executives for National Security, and is a U.S. military veteran. Chris and his wife, Corey, live in Fort Worth, have been married 25 years and raised a son and a daughter. Please welcome Mr. Chris Harrison to our club. Chris, tell us something about yourself that we don't know.
Thank you. It's an honor to be a part of this club. I grew up in the Midwest, in Ohio, and I had always heard of the Rotary Club, didn't know what it was, but if you grow up in Ohio, in the Midwest, you hear about the Rotary Club quite a bit. And moving to Fort Worth from North Dallas last August, my wife was very excited about this membership here and brought me as a guest. Hadn't really considered joining, just wanted to support her in something that she loved. And it became very clear to me that I needed to become a member. I'm a big fan of serving. But, you know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says that a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And I take a look at me out there serving on my own versus serving collectively with a group that is aligned in its interest and in its values, and with your ethos. And ethos in its simplest definition is the character of a thing, the culture of a thing. It's our why. And what really sold me on Rotary was when I heard the 4-way test. Being a veteran, I'm a big fan of ethos. You know, what makes a man or a woman take that hill? You know, knowing that you're not coming back. What makes you do that? And it's our ethos, and seeing your ethos just moved me. This is not only someone that's out, or a group that's out there doing good, but they're doing good for all the right reasons. So it's an honor to be here. And one thing about me, you said?
Yes.
I have OCD, and that's why I sit with my back to this wall, because one blind is up, one is down, and one's halfway. And it's just easier to face that way, so thank you.
Chris? Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much, my friend Chris Harris. Welcome to the club, sir. And now for the main event. I'd like to introduce our chairperson of the day, Michael Crane, partner, Northern Crane Realty. And he does something else, what is it? City council, that's it, yes, city councilman. Come on up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I am excited about this panel. I've been friends with everybody on this panel for a long period of time, so I'm excited to introduce them to you. You may have read earlier this week in the Fort Worth Report. See what I did there? Where are they? Where's Chris? There you are, David. Thank you. About the council was briefed by Assistant City Manager Valerie Washington on basically the results of a study that we had implemented last year as part of an ad hoc committee to look at our mobile healthcare system. My council member, Carlos Flores, chaired that. I want to commend him and the committee for taking that effort on. And it was to look at models around the country, best practices, and recommend an EMS structure. And I think they'll get into this as part of the panel that best fits the size and growth of our city over the last number of years and well into the future. One of the things I know is a priority, and they'll probably get into this too, is to look at models that are financially sustainable, patient-centric, well-coordinated, efficient, reliable, et cetera. I will say that's not a judgment on the state of MedStar today, but we have to continue to look at the systems and processes as our city continues to grow to 1 million people and beyond. So with that, I will say we've got the right people here on the stage to discuss it, and I'll read some bios here for you for a second really quickly. Ken Simpson joined MedStar as Chief Operating Officer in 2017 and was promoted to CEO in 2021. He has 24 years of experience in EMS, transitioning to EMS leadership after attaining his law degree from the University of Memphis School of Law. He began his EMS career as an EMT firefighter. Throughout his career, Ken has held progressive leadership positions with the Rural Metro Corporation and Global Medical Response. Just prior to joining MedStar and Chief Operations Officer in 2017, Ken was the Regional Director for GMR's operations in Atlanta, Georgia. We'll hold our applause and I'll get through all this and then we'll go. Matt Zavadsky has over 40 years in EMS and mobile healthcare. Matt has held leadership roles in both private and government sectors, gaining a national reputation as a prominent thought leader in the field. At MedStar, he initially served as Operations Director, overseeing operations for a high-performance EMS system in Fort Worth and 14 surrounding cities. Later, as Chief Transformation Officer, he focused on developing agency relations, strategic initiatives, healthcare integration, and media community relations. Valerie Washington serves as Assistant City Manager for the City of Fort Worth. Her current portfolio includes aviation, City Manager's Office, Code Compliance, Environmental Services, and the Municipal Court. Valerie is assigned to several special projects, including the Fire Ad Hoc Staffing Committee, which we will talk about today, 9/11 Working Group, MedStar, and the Payroll Task Force. Outside of City Hall, Valerie serves on the Tarrant Area Food Bank Board and is actively involved with the National Charity League, a mother-daughter philanthropic organization. Before accepting the role with Fort Worth in 2015, Valerie worked for the City of Indianapolis and served in various public safety-related departments. I don't have to introduce Fernando Costa. All of you know he's a past president and current assistant city manager. So with that, guys, welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Michael. Michael's correct. This topic is timely as well as important for Fort Worth because the City Council and the MedStar Board will be making decisions in the weeks ahead that will profoundly affect the future of emergency medical services or mobile health care in our community. And we have the three foremost experts about this topic on the stage this afternoon. So we're delighted that all three of them are here. And my job is to ask them a few questions, keep us on time, and then allow a few minutes for you to pose questions to our guests. So let's start with Ken. Ken Simpson, CEO of MedStar, to tell us the basics of MedStar. Tell us about your history, your leadership, your business model, how it works. Ken Simpson.
Thank you, Fernando. It's because we're named MedStar, a lot of people don't realize that the EMS service itself is actually a government authority. So before MedStar existed, private providers provided EMS coverage for the city of Fort Worth. There was a lot of challenges that went on at the time without sort of having a central figure to lead and set the stage for the provision of EMS services. So the city stepped in and they said, you know, we want to try this thing called a public utility model. And basically what it is as much like an airport authority or a water authority. They created MedStar in 1988 as the Fort Worth Ambulance Authority. They formed a board of directors. At the time, it was made up of assistant city managers, physicians from the community, so that you had that subject matter expertise into the provision of EMS services. And they provided care for the city of Fort Worth. A couple of years later, about 1988, some of the suburban cities that were contiguous with the Fort Worth said, hey, this thing seems like it's working pretty well. Is it something we can join? And so Fort Worth, being good partners, they said, absolutely. And so the suburban city said, well, the only thing we'd ask is, can we call it something other than the Fort Worth Ambulance Authority if it's going to be operating in Saginaw and Haltom City and whatnot. So we became MedStar then in 1988. Today we are still overseen by a board of directors. 5 of those board members are appointed by the city of Fort Worth, one of which is the Fort Worth Fire Chief. One of them is appointed by the suburban cities by a collective vote based on their population. We have 2 from the Emergency Physicians Advisory Board, which are medical directors from the area emergency rooms. And then we have 1 suburban cities fire chief also. Carlos Flores is our board chair, and so they provide guidance and oversight as we provide services throughout the community. Today we provide all the emergency and non-emergency services within the city of Fort Worth, and that's kind of how we've worked since about 2009. We've been able to operate entirely without, without any public funding. So, and really how that works is we end up billing insurance companies and things like that to cover our costs. So we're a very busy system. Last year we ran almost 200,000 calls on a daily basis. We put up between 50 and 60 ambulances at peak time. And our model is just a little bit different because of that busyness and how we staff and how we deploy resources throughout the system. We really do it a lot more like the business community would. If a simplistic example we sort of use is if you think about fast food places, they make more cheeseburgers at lunchtime than they do early in the morning. We do the same thing with ambulances. When you're awake, there are more illnesses, there's more opportunities to get in motor vehicle accidents and things like that. So we staff more ambulances during those hours. While people are sleeping, there's less demand, so we staff down at those times. So that adds a lot of efficiency. We also have a very strong clinical focus because of the Emergency Physicians Advisory Board, and we've been able to gain international recognition for that. So.
Thank you very much. Michael mentioned that Matt Savasky is nationally known as a thought leader in the field of emergency medical services. That's no exaggeration. He has written broadly about the field and has given extensive thought to the big questions surrounding it. And so I'd like to ask you, Matt, you've been in the field a long time. What are some of the big changes that you've seen over the years, and what are some of the global or national trends that are affecting the financial performance of EMS today?
Thank you very much, Fernando. When I first started in EMS, I think the biggest change between then and now was the shift from horse-drawn carriage to combustion engine. I used to have hair like Michael Crane when I first started in EMS, and now I'm heading to where you are, but that's okay. So, the biggest change in EMS, and EMS as a current profession is relatively young. It's only been really a thing for about 50 years. But the clinical research that has come out and been published over the last decade or two has been dramatic, and it's changed everything that we've done. In fact, there are things that we no longer do because of research that today would be considered malpractice. So the evidence-based, the research, and MedStar has been part of a lot of that research because of what Ken described with our system design, the strong physician oversight, the strong focus on clinical medicine, because that's all we do. We are the highest enrollers in many of those national studies. The second thing that's happened pretty dramatically is the economic model. So EMS for a long time was provided by volunteers and other places, but you could also operate at a fairly reduced cost, and MedStar is the lowest cost provider, public provider in the state. You can operate at a cost that is typically less than your reimbursement. However, the pandemic changed all of that. Our primary cost driver in this system or any system in the country is response time expectations. The shorter you want your response times, the more resources you need to have on the street that aren't producing revenue, that are sitting waiting for a call. And systems across the country have faced the same issues that we're facing here in Fort Worth. In fact, we, as part of our national presence, track news articles, and since January of '21, There have been over 2,000 local and national media stories about EMS, and 86% of those news articles relate to the failing economic model and the staffing crisis, and they kind of go hand in hand. So the last thing that I think the biggest megatrend that we've seen is the de-emphasis of paramedics. In most EMS systems, we'll talk more about this later, the vast majority of the calls that we respond to, the 911 calls, are not life-threatening emergencies. And paramedics are very difficult to find, they're very difficult to fund, and quite frankly, for the majority of calls, you don't need them. Some of the best performing EMS systems in the country, places like Seattle and Boston and Washington, D.C., all of these very highly touted systems, and now thankfully MedStar, are reducing as a percentage of their deployment fewer and fewer paramedics. Because the fewer paramedics that you have, the more highly utilized they are, because they're responding to the right type of calls. And because of that, it's like going to a cardiologist. Do you want to go to the cardiologist that does a heart procedure a month? Or do you want to go to one that does a heart procedure a day? Sort of the same thing with paramedics. So across the country, we're seeing a reduction in the number of paramedics out in the field, mostly EMTs, because they can handle the majority of the call volume and they do really well. So those are sort of the three big trends that we're seeing.
Very good. Thanks so much, Matt. We're delighted to have Valerie Washington with us. Val is a jack of all trades in city management, but is particularly knowledgeable about public safety. And so studying the efficiency of our emergency medical services is second nature to Valerie. Valerie, tell us about the study the city has undertaken. What stakeholders have been involved, what professional experts, and in general, what are the major findings and recommendations?
Sure. So we've been working with Fitch and Associates on this particular EMS evaluation, but it really started a couple of years ago when the city of Fort Worth engaged with Citygate and Associates to look and do a fired staffing and deployment study. It was really through their work that they put on our radar that our mayor and council hadn't been involved in policy decisions tied to response times and other policy decisions like that. And they suggested we take a look at the governance structure that was currently in place with MedStar to ensure that we met that goal and made sure that our mayor and council were more involved in that process. As we worked with the MedStar team, and they're right, our EMS across the nation has been suffering with loss of revenues, programs that don't have revenue sources that are important to communities, and really needing to find a way to match funding sources with that. As we started engaging in those conversations, I worked with Ken, the city of Fort Worth, and some of the member cities to determine the best vendor to bring in. We did a competitive process and chose Fitch and Associates. Through that process, I think we've been working, I feel like, Ken, since probably August, September, even before that, just for planning. But we've talked with hospital CEOs, we've talked with emergency room physicians, interfaced with the Tarrant County Medical Society. They've been highly engaged in EMS here in Fort Worth, and we value their perspective and opinions as we have these conversations. We've worked with the Local 440. As we look at making some of the EMS changes, it is going to require us to look at our collective bargaining agreement. We've worked with the current member cities of MedStar, so there's 14 of us. We've been working with the other 13 member cities, just ensuring that we're on the same page, that they understood the need for the study. And we've been meeting with them at least bi-monthly. I feel like our meetings have become more frequent recently, just as we're working through some of the big changes that may be needed as they have to work with their mayors and councils. And it's really, I think, the biggest punchline for us has been, and I think Ken has been setting us up for this, is that we need public funding for EMS. It's a necessary service, and we're committed to figuring out how to do that.
Thanks, Val. Well, Ken, what do you think about these findings and recommendations, and what do you see as the major challenges that we'll be facing over the next few weeks in addressing them?
That's an open-ended question.
Yes, sir.
No, we, to Valerie's point, we had very candid conversations early on about the changes that Matt talked about and the need for public funding. We also talked about, like I said, MedStar has always been a very busy service, but over the past few years, they've been a lot busier than we wanted our frontline folks to be. It gets very exhausting. And so we talked pretty candidly about the need to add resources, and that created the need for funding as well. And so it was no surprise that all four of those options that they put forward came out with the need for public funding. We have looked at our role with the city of Fort Worth and the suburban cities as providing EMS coverage and providing good quality EMS coverage. We welcome the opportunity for the city of Fort Worth to step in and be more involved with the governance, and we view our job is to facilitate whatever that looks like in the future, including in merging that with the city of Fort Worth. And so, we're looking forward to that opportunity. We've done a lot of good things. We've built a world-class EMS service, something that the city and the suburban city should be very proud of. And we want to give that the best chance of success as it moves forward into the future. With that said, the city of Fort Worth is the 13th largest city in the country, and there are a lot of, not only do we provide EMS coverage to them on the emergency and non-emergency side, we also provide coverage to 13 surrounding suburban cities. And so to say that that is a big lift to get it transferred is an understatement. But we do have a very committed team, from hospital executives to hospital CEOs to the city of Fort Worth, to the MedStar employees that are working hard to make sure that that goes off without a hitch, so that EMS service can continue to be delivered in the way that the cities expect, with a clinical focus that is expected. And and we're just going to work hard through that to make sure that it happens without missing a beat. And Chief Davis has also been great as we've gone through this process, and he's committed to making sure that the cultures meld very well as we move forward. Councilman Crane, I'm not getting in front of a mayor and council vote, so I will throw out there the caveat that this is subject to the final mayor and council vote, but we are preparing for it in case that's the direction it goes.
And Fernando, if you don't mind, on some of the specific recommendations that came out of the EMS ad hoc committee and have been presented to mayor and council, there were about 10 recommendations total. The first one of those was to make sure that mayor and council of Fort Worth were involved in the governance. We'll be working with Mayor Parker and the council to really talk through what that looks like through this transition period. They recommended, and a recommendation I think that everyone would support, is making sure that the Office of the Medical Director is independent. So you have independent medical direction, and that's one of the things we heard from the physicians and the Tarrant County Medical Society. Probably one of the other big recommendations in that 10 is that we are transitioning to a fire department model where we will have a single role position who will perform the EMS services within the fire department. So with that, there's a lot of changes, talking through structurally what that looks like. Converting positions to civil service is going to be something we'll have to work through with our city attorney's office. But we've hired Fitch and Associates to come on and serve as our on-site implementation transition manager. So we'll have their expertise along with the team that's been really committed to this project, working to make sure that we don't miss anything through this process, because Ken and Matt are right, it's incredibly complex with all the moving pieces and parts. But we think that we've staffed it and really have the right resources at the table to make sure that it's seamless. So everyone in the room, as we're going through this, you should notice no difference, because our goal is to make sure it's seamless for the end users of the system.
Thank you, Val. But before we open the floor for questions, let me ask Matt, if you would take us into the future of emergency medical services or mobile health care, and tell us how you envision this service being delivered, let's say, in the next 10 years.
I think across the country, what we as communities are going to have to realize is that the fastest growing component of the 911 response volume in almost every community are low acuity medical complaints. Audience participation. What percentage of our 911 response volume do you think results in the patient receiving a life-saving intervention? 10%, 5%, 2%. 2%. And that's true across the country. It's actually 7% across the country. So dealing with the rising low acuity call volume and having some tough discussions with the community, balancing the cost of service delivery with the real clinical evidence for what patients need when they call 911. It doesn't make any sense to send the cavalry in 8 minutes drive time to every call when 80% of the calls would be fine with a response time that included today. Doing things like MedStar's done for years, using community paramedics to reduce call volume, to help people get health care that doesn't involve a 3-digit number on your telephone is going to be really important. Finally, reducing the incidence of light and siren vehicle operations. Across the country, this has been a huge push because of the risk-benefit trade-off is not balanced in what we call hot responses. Just in the last few months, there have been 2 Fort Worth Fire Department crashes that put people in the hospital. There's been a MedStar crash that put people in the hospital. Every one of those involved a vehicle driving lights and siren. And again, 2% of the call volume are for life-threatening emergencies. Doing good call screening, doing very good proactive to try and prevent 911 calls are all the things that are going to help that process and help save money. Because if you don't have to have an 8-minute drive time to as many calls, because you're really doing a good job triaging those calls, there are communities in this country that have done that and changed response times up to an hour, 1 hour response time. Charlotte just did this, and they have had no response time complaints, no one has died, and they have reduced their budget by millions of dollars. So we just need to get real.
Great food for thought. Thank you, Matt. Chris Cobbler.
I had a former colleague who went on to work for Health Communications, Health Division of Homeland Security, very informed, and he reached out to me because of all this happening here, and said to me, a fire department based EMS, this is an opinion, so that was going to end up costing the city a lot more and not improve patients' outcomes. So I asked that question. I had not really fully considered until he brought that up of the panel. What are your thoughts?
So I'll jump in first. I think that while I respect his opinion for that, I don't think that that's the case. Here in Fort Worth, as we implement the model, we'll have the fire-based EMS, but I think that's also the importance of having the separate independent Office of the Medical Director who really owns that patient and clinical care. I would also say with our first responders in the fire department, they are all trained EMTs. There's a good handful that are paramedics. They are very clinically and patient-focused as a group. I would just say in advocating on behalf of them, and in my experience, I think that that's just kind of a bad reputation they get. I know even in the conversations we've had through here, there was an opportunity for public comment at one of the EMS ad hoc committee meetings, and we heard a lot from the doctors and the patient-focused piece from the emergency room physicians, but also the fire department came to speak on that. And again, they're patient-focused. They know how to get there fast. I think that as we work through the model, we'll find I think we'll find that that's not the case here in the city of Fort Worth. And as we work with Fitch and Ken and others through the transition, I mean, that'll be top of mind.
Mitch?
I'm in favor of this. I think it has to happen, but in the transition to civil service, service from an enterprise. Have we looked at the cost of what this is going to be? And we will look at the taxpayer to find out how much this is going to affect us in our taxes.
So we spent a lot of time working with our Fort Worth lab, which is our budget and data department within the city of Fort Worth. We know the cost of funding the ambulance service is about $10.8 million in total. If you were to look at kind of the highest estimates and price tags we've received in looking at estimates, I would say there's a couple of things in that. In looking at the civil service model, there are some costs that will be new to the city of Fort Worth as we implement that model for this group of employees. That will include the cost of hiring exams, promotional exams. They'll become a bargaining unit, so there will be collective bargaining costs tied to that. So there is a cost to that model. We estimate in fiscal year '25, the city of Fort Worth will spend probably $6.5 to $7 million as we work through getting transitioned. The full cost of that, just looking at current data and current numbers, again, is about $10.8 million in public funding need. And that doesn't include contributions from the member cities who are also a part of that $10.8 million calculation. We have money set aside in this year's budget that we had anticipated to use in providing assistance to MedStar if they needed any public funding. So that'll help offset the funding as we look at fiscal year '25. But it is a new cost to the city of Fort Worth. We haven't had to pay for EMS services for a long time, and we're working through the best way to pay for that. There will be a slight increase in payroll and all benefits as MedStar employees transition to the city of Fort Worth. And for the employees that will move into the single role EMS civil service positions within the fire department, there is a slightly increased pension cost due to the firefighters just being in a higher risk group. So there is a little bit more of a pension cost for those employees.
Let's take one more question. Yeah, Jim?
Yes, the new system goes into place. I call and say, hey, I've got a health problem, I need help. Is a fire truck going to show up at my house? Is an ambulance going to show up at my house? Both of them with a guy on the fire truck that is an EMT? What's it look like?
Ken?
Well, just to be clear, today when you call, depending on what your complaint is, you may very well get a fire truck and an ambulance anyway, because
I've had that experience.
Okay, all right. So, so it will probably continue the same way, again, depending on what your complaint is. The lower acuity calls today, it's just an ambulance. The higher acuity, like if your spouse were to call and say, hey, my husband is not responding, you would get a fire truck and an ambulance in that case, because you need more hands to take care of the more critical patients. I'm sure that the same thing will continue when the system is transitioned.
I'm sure we have lots of additional questions. We'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards, but thank you all for your attention today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to each of our speakers today. Gentlemen, madam, as those of you who have been to our Rotary meetings in the past know, our club and Rotary itself is very involved in the fight against polio. And in honor of your speech here today, or your presentation, our club is making a donation in each of your names to the Rotary Polio Plus Fund. This here is a memento of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Now, speaking of that, I remember a few weeks ago when Carol Klosik, Center for Transforming Lives, came to us. I'm going to read something to you. This is from J.R. Labby. Good afternoon, Kirk. I received this from Carol this afternoon. She was visibly touched by the Polio Plus honor. Now we both know why. I told her you made the decision to honor speakers by donating in their names to the Rotary Polio Plus Fund. This is from Carol to JR, of course. I wanted to say a bit more about how meaningful it is that the Rotary Club of Fort Worth made a donation in my honor to the Ending Polio Fund. For my father and my longtime supervisor, Karen Spicer, both had polio. For Karen, it left her with lifelong disabilities and contributed to her early death. My dad was 4 or 5 when he contracted polio. He spent a year in the hospital and was not allowed physical contact with anyone but his nurse. All he remembers from that time is the pain and the once-a-week visit with his mother through the glass. He attributes how he treated us to that year. I don't know if that is the case, but I'm certain it left a terrible emotional scar. Please pass along my sincere appreciation to whoever made that decision. It means a lot to me. Folks, the work that Rotary, and by extension you, are doing in the fight to end polio is meaningful. 2-3 weeks later, one of our guests, we had a guest speaker here, it was from one of the colleges, and one of the guests at the table afterwards came up and said, I need to talk to you. Okay, what's going on? She said, I'm from Guatemala. I had polio as a little girl. I still am feeling the effects of that, and I'm part of a survivors group, and I want to join Rotary. I want to be in the fight to end this horrific disease. This is something you folks are already on the front lines for with your donations. This is not a call for you to send money right now. This is me affirming for you what you folks are already doing to end this tragic disease. As a reminder, 1988, 288,000 new cases of wild polio every year. That's over 250,000. Last year, there were 13 worldwide. We are this close to killing polio. So thank you for your efforts. Now, on to some closing announcements. Dues, Tom, dues are due. Veterans and Military Support Committee meeting, Rotary office, Suite 305, 3rd floor. Next Tuesday is the Crazy Pants Golf Open. For all you mothers out there, isn't Saturday or Sunday is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Next week, Scott Friedman, Senior Investigative Reporter, NBC5. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.